Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the channel. It's Beam again. I wanted to make a video to talk about my last video. Capcom is killing Street Fighter 6. Now, this video got a lot more traction and attention than I expected. I also was made aware that Buncheck reacted to the video, and that got a lot of traction as well. Check the comments there, check the comments on my channel. There was a lot of discourse. At least so far on my channel, I saw a lot of people understanding the point that I was trying to make, of course with some disagreements here and there. And same thing was on Buncheck's channel. It was actually pretty interesting. Lots of disagreements there, and I was called lots of things there. Not so great things. But yeah, it goes to show that there are all kinds of people in the FGC. Mostly good. I've talked to so many great people in the FGC, and obviously there are bad apples everywhere. And what I want to talk about is what my vision was when making the video and what I actually meant when making the video. I'm gonna preface this by saying I will not change a single thing I said in the previous video. I truly did mean it when I said Capcom is killing Street Fighter 6. And let me explain why. Now, one of the first things that I heard, or that I heard frequently in the comments, which was, again, shows that they didn't understand the point of the video, was how is Capcom killing Street Fighter 6 if it's selling so well? How 6 million copies? That's so much. That means it's not dead. It means it's so good. I never called the game dead. I said it's being killed. There's a big difference. And when I say it's being killed, I'm not saying the audience is disappearing. I'm saying that the game is not living up to its potential and is really stale and is really empty. And what does that do to a game? Kill it on the long run. I don't think that's really hard to understand, especially if you watch the video and understood that I'm first and foremost a fan of the game. I'm saying that now because lots of the comments, I mean a ton, were attacking me by saying like, I'm such a hater, if you hate this game so much, why are you playing it? What's the point of this video? This video is just made for clickbait and views. And I can assure you that is not the case, because if I could just do that, well, yeah, I can get a lot of views, but I don't. If I didn't love the game so much, if I didn't like Street Fighter, this channel wouldn't have existed. I wouldn't have been making videos for 4 years. And if I wanted all that clickbait, like I said, I could have been making clickbait videos forever, because that's just way easier, right? That is clearly not my intention. I also wanted to add, talking about the current state of the game's gameplay and the mechanics. A lot of people thought that since I've been talking about skins, that I don't care about any other aspect of the game, which is completely untrue. But I guess you can't talk about one thing and not mention the other in this world. If I say I like pancakes and I don't say I like waffles, it means, why don't you like waffles? Even though I never said I didn't like waffles, you know? Street Fighter 6, like I said, I think is a game that is really fun mechanically, but has many flaws. And ever since the start, Drive Rush has a ton of issues. For me, the biggest ones are Drive Rush eating inputs, Drive Rush not being consistently checkable, interruptible, every character is different, and throw loops. God, don't get me started on throw loops. So you guys know these are all given. I think most people agree these are one of the top issues. And also some brain dead characters. I think Mai is extremely stupid, and I think Bison is really stupid. A lot of people can say other characters are stupid. I think that there's a lot of things that could be worked on. I thought the easiest thing to address content-wise was adding skins and making the skin economy something normal like other games do. The whole skin topic to me is really funny because lots of people think that's like, oh, that's the most important thing. Go play Fortnite since you love skins so much. And it's completely not about that. It's just, it's cool to see the game have a fresh coat of paint. And no one said I want these skins to be paid. What if they could make the skins earnable by playing? That's something that you guys didn't even consider. And also, even if I talked about the skins, some people said, why is he talking about wanting more skins but also complaining about how to buy skins? Well, you see, the whole system is flawed. You could want more content to the game, like outfits. They could be earned by playing, or they could be purchased, but the way you purchase them shouldn't be so terribly handled in a way that you have to buy more coins than you have to purchase a single skin. That was something not in the previous Street Fighter, and is also not present in basically every other game that is not Street Fighter 6. A lot of people in the FGC are just stuck in the FGC bubble. And this will sound a bit interesting to you, and I'll explain it this way. Lots of people who play fighting games, there's a certain kind of people that only play just fighting games, right? And no other game genre. And some people play fighting games and other games, right? I'm part of the people that all their life have been playing games that are not fighting games, and then got introduced to them and really liked them. And recently, for Street Fighter 6, want them to be so much better than they are. Now, for the people that have been only playing fighting games, they probably don't know how games are supported or how games work these days. Pretty much any multiplayer game like Street Fighter 6 is a game that should be updated frequently, a game that should be supported frequently, a game that is not supposed to be left stale and let time pass on just because they can, and not do anything worthy to make the game more interesting just because whatever they did earlier works. My big take on Street Fighter 6 is, like I said before, I'm such a big fan. I was so excited for the game, and I had really high expectations for Street Fighter 6. And these expectations were met initially. I thought the gameplay was awesome. I was having so much fun. Genuinely, it was a breath of fresh air. Since the beta, I've been having such a good time playing the game. I think it's super enjoyable. I think the overall package that Street Fighter 6 launched in was incredible. I think that's how every fighting game should be, minimum. But even with that, I had even higher expectations. And I'll say it this way. The game could have so much more, even initially when the game first came out. I was actually kind of interested in the lore of Street Fighter. I think the story is interesting. I really want to know what the characters are doing, how they're progressing from each game, specifically because this game, Street Fighter 6, is the first sequel to Street Fighter 3. Lots of games have been always behind Street Fighter 3 in the storyline. So what I was expecting was that this game would have a proper story mode, like an actual story mode, not the world tour that we got, which I played fully, believe it or not, because a lot of people think that just because I compete or make videos playing the game only ranked means that I didn't touch any other aspect of the game, which is completely untrue. I know this is not the case for everyone, but for me, like I said, I like to explore every aspect of the game. World Tour was not what I wanted. I did enjoy it, but there could be so much more. I thought that each character would have a real story, would have cool cutscenes, something like another regular game would have. I think, I don't play Mortal Kombat games, but I think their story does have those like cutscenes from that look similar to other games, not fighting games. And I believe I've seen Tekken do something like that. But I wanted the story mode to actually be a real progression for the game, showing real details about each character, real things that are happening. For example, the Ken JP story, Luke's father's death, stuff like that. It was barely addressed, I feel like, and most of the time, like, why is Ken a construction worker that's homeless? Like, I feel like what they gave was not enough of an explanation. It's too simple. I feel like before the game came out, I was like, oh my god, this story is gonna be so incredible. There's so much they could do here in many ways. But we didn't see half the characters interact with each other. And I think that the World Tour should have been something else as a single player story mode. And I think the arcade could also be way more than it is. I get that the arcade is a classic part of fighting games and it should always be there. I think the issue for me is that it also doesn't give a lot of story. So when you're playing the arcade, you fight different characters, you get a cutscene, not even a cutscene, see? You get a drawing with text underneath and a voiceover that's really short, and I've played all the characters' arcade stories, and most of the time, even if I didn't play them, it would have been the same thing. Most of the time, I didn't learn anything new about the characters. I would have preferred that either, if they're gonna have the World Tour, at least make the arcade a bit more interesting story-wise, or make it have cutscenes, or maybe at least something like Street Fighter 4 had, the animation that it had. I thought that was nice. But it could be so much more than that, like I'm saying, because Capcom has all the money in the world to do that. One of the biggest points that I wanted to make was, why do we want to limit ourselves in the FGC? Genuinely, I think that's a really big thing that I want to say. I think people in the FGC are used to a specific standard. Most games barely hit that standard, right? Let's have a game that has multiplayer, online multiplayer, a training mode, a story like the arcade, something around that, and that's it. They release a few characters every now and then, and that's a fighting game. I think for big companies at least, let's not talk about like indies or smaller companies. Let's talk about, for example, Capcom. I thought that Capcom, because of the potential Street Fighter 6 had, because of the way the gaming industry works now, that they could take the game to a certain level that would make it not just a fighting game, that could reach audiences that have never played fighting games. Of course, we don't want to get rid of the legacy audience, the OG, the core audience of Street Fighter and fighting games in general, but also introduce new players to the game and make it reach further heights. Street Fighter 6 had the potential to do that. And it could have been the first fighting game ever that's not just a fighting game, a game that anyone can play, and they clearly did that with the modern controls and the dynamic controls. I felt like some certain touches could have been made and it would have been an unbeatable game. I feel like there's gonna be a point in time someday, one fighting game company is gonna decide to make a game that is bigger than any other fighting game. I don't know what it is. It could be Capcom, could be Warner Brothers, it could be Bandai Namco. You never know. But the point that I'm trying to make is, why wait until that point happens? Why not be the trendsetter for fighting games? When I was talking about adding skins to the game, it's not that skins are the only important thing, but it's actually the easiest way to keep the game fresh. Obviously, I would want new game modes or new things to do or new mechanics, but that's not always possible. I'm trying to keep it reasonable considering all the time that we've waited for the game to be updated. And going back to the FGC bubble that I've been talking about, that the people that only play certain fighting games and no other game don't know how other games are supported. I think most multiplayer games that do behave like Street Fighter 6 are way more frequently updated. Way more. I'm talking some games update every single week, some games do every single month, some games every couple of months. Street Fighter does none of that, and I think it's unreasonable. So much more could be done. They have the capital for it. Street Fighter could have been the game that sets the bar way further than it already has. And I think it's really wrong for people in the FGC to not criticize a game just because they've been so used to really subpar things. I believe lots of things have been subpar. Well, yeah, in the fighting game industry, maybe it might be the best it's ever been, but why limit yourself to the fighting game industry? Like I said, let's talk about this, for example. Good netcode. It's so funny to me that that's one of the factors that makes a fighting game good. That's supposed to be a bare minimum kind of thing, you know? Street Fighter 5, terrible because of bad netcode, 100%. But Street Fighter 6 is so good because it has good gameplay and it has good netcode. But why limit ourselves there? I think limiting yourself is a big problem. Not criticizing a company is a big problem. Thinking that everything is all sunshine and rainbows and everything's perfect is a problem. But just because a game is the best it's ever been, but is still being lazy or taking certain steps to not innovate or make controversial decisions like the pay-per-view that we talked about, we can't not criticize them because they made a good game initially. You can't forget the things that happen afterwards just because, oh yep, this is the best fighting game we've ever had, it's doing the best it ever has, the most player base, the most sales in a very long time. Let's not talk about Street Fighter 2. Street Fighter. Fighting games in general, as a whole, could be so much more than what they already are. And just because we've been used to a certain standard and no one wants to try to do more than they already have because the formula works, doesn't mean it's not flawed. Hope you guys understand that. Appreciate your support. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.